right now is the iconic Red Fort in Delhi. Hello and welcome, I'm Sadhika Tiwari and you're watching Eco India. Climate change impacts everything and this monument is no different. And since nothing is left untouched by climate change, adaptation is one among the three major talking points in climate negotiations, along with climate finance and mitigation. And in this episode, we will learn a lot more about adapting to climate change. So, resuming the story of the Red Fort, a few months ago, the national capital of India saw knee-deep waters at some of the most iconic locations, including this Red Fort. And at the center of all of this was the Yamuna River. But a city does not become a flood-prone over a few days or a month. So where did we go so wrong that the river's water level rose to a 45-year high?
This was Delhi in July 2023. Torrential rains in the national capital region raised the water in the Yamuna River to 3 meters above the danger level, recording an all-time high. Delhi resident and reporter Juhi Chaudhary experienced the rains firsthand. She wanted to find out why flooding in the region has been getting worse and began her quest at the Yamuna Biodiversity Park, where Professor C.R. Babu has been trying to revive the wetlands.
There are many low-lying areas across the city and they serve as the wetlands. And these wetlands hold the catchments from the neighboring areas. If these wetlands are filled up, are encroached, what will happen when the river is in flood?
To answer this question, just take what happened in the latest period of heavy rainfall. In their natural state, these floodplains act as water sinks. But Delhi's exploding growth has eaten away at the wetlands all along the river. Babu says at least 23 bridges, flyovers and barrages have been built in the Yamuna's floodplains without thought for the adverse effects, that they create obstacles for the flow of flood water.
When you talk about floodplain, it is not only the floodplain. The floodplain has what you call floodplain catchment wetlands, floodplain treatment wetlands, and you have a grasslands, and you have a what you call marshes, and you have a floodplain forest. All these play a major role in what you call preventing the flood water entering into the low-lying areas.
Since the natural extent of the floodplains has shrunk, when it rains more than the river can hold, the floodwater has to go somewhere. So it enters low-lying areas within the city. Like here in the old part of Delhi. It is usually flooded with tourists, but the rains seem to bring to life an old waterway that the Red Fort was built next to in the 17th century. Professor Babu's restoration efforts aim to improve the state of Delhi's wetlands and increase the extent to which they can absorb floodwater. His work has involved desilting the area and planting suitable flora in the wetlands.
We have developed here what you call one wetland, catchment wetland, and we simply restored the natural catchment wetland and we deepen it, and now it stores 500 million gallons of flood water.
The Yamuna River isn't solely to blame for the floods. In large parts of Delhi, the sorry state of internal drainage networks has created many localized water flow issues, exacerbating the floods. Professor A.K. Gosain of the Indian Institute of Technology in Delhi has been studying the complex drainage network to understand how holes in the city's infrastructure and a rising Yamuna combine to make the flooding considerably worse.
The contributing area of each drain. Around 22 drains are there which evacuate its water taken from the landmass in and around Delhi into Yamuna. They couldn't evacuate themselves because their level was lower than the level of water in the Yamuna.
In many parts of Delhi, trash and waste is dumped directly into drains, polluting the water and causing blockages. According to Dr. Gosain, there are over 200 natural stormwater drains and 4,500 kilometers of artificial drains. Most are either clogged, paved over, or carry sewage and debris all year round. So, Professor Gosain wrote to the government back in 2017, suggesting urgent measures.
We said that the first thing to be done is desilting properly all the drains. If your drain is not effective, then the whole water will flow on the landmass. It will never go through the drain.
His suggestions drew no response, but citizens like him continue to do their bit for the city. Wildlife biologist Prakhar Rawal thinks saving the hundreds of small lakes and ponds in Delhi could make a big difference to flood prevention.
Where is it?
When I started looking at the map, I realized that Delhi is dotted with a huge number of ponds which nobody knows about. So this goes to somewhere around 550 to 600 in numbers. And I surveyed around 39 ponds. And I found that these ponds contain huge amount of biodiversity, probably the largest biodiversity which has been recorded in any mega city anywhere.
Prakhar has gone on to document 600 unofficial water bodies in the city by plotting their coordinates. Finally, it seems the water agency of the Delhi government has begun to take action. It's announced plans to revive 265 water bodies across the capital. So far, it's mainly been individuals taking the initiative. But the recent record floods and the worsening climate crisis are acting as a wake-up call for citizens and authorities alike to make Delhi more climate and flood resilient.
Could you have ever imagined that climate change will start having an adverse impact on love? Well, unfortunately, this could be happening in a city that can very well be called the global capital of romance. But as Paris heats up, let's take a look at what Parisians are trying to do to cool the city down, because we might have a few lessons to learn from it.
Paris, the city of love, has long been a tourist stream. But despite its air of romance, on hot summer days it can feel hard to breathe. Concrete roads and buildings turn the French capital into an urban heat island. Paris has warmed up by 2.3 degrees Celsius on average since 1885, compared to 1.7 degrees in the rest of France, according to a recent study. And so the town hall is now investing tens of millions of euros to help cool down the city.
Bonjour.
Enchantée, Lisa Louis. So this is a map of Paris. Tell me, what is so specific about this city?
On est ici dans une ville qui est historique, qui a son patrimoine.
This is a historic city built for a moderate climate and one of the most densely built cities in the world. That's why it's like an oven, far more so than places spread out over a large area. The Canal Saint-Martin here is already open for swimming. After next year's Olympic Games, we plan to open 3 bathing areas on the Seine River. One plan is to replace concrete with earth that can soak up rainwater and cool down the air. We'll also insulate public buildings.
Il y a aussi tout un programme de rénovation de nos bâtiments publics municipaux.
Many squares have already gone green, like the Place de la Nation, or this roundabout in the south of Paris, which is being transformed into an urban forest, since trees are also key to cooling down the city. And the River Seine will not only become an open-air swimming pool, it's already making a cooling contribution. This eco-friendly cooling system is called Fraîcheur de Paris, a network of underground water pipes that is connected to water tube systems in over 700 buildings across the city. We pay a visit to one of its main plants, the Centrale Canada.
These pumps push ice-cold water through the system. The water is cooled by refrigeration units which heat up in the process. That heat is dissipated into the Seine. Its water flows through a secondary circuit. This system consumes half as much electricity as a conventional air conditioning unit.
What's more, that electricity comes entirely from renewable energy, mainly from solar panels. Today, the network has 90 kilometers of pipes, and the company plans to triple that over the next 2 decades. Paris was the first city in Europe to adopt such an underground cooling network, and now other municipalities are looking to get on board.
Many city officials have come to visit us, especially from Northern Europe, to see how such a system works. It might seem a bit paradoxical since it's not as hot in the north. But southern cities have been dealing with the heat for a while and have been adapting to it.
Fraîcheur de Paris is already helping to cool places like the Louvre Museum and Paris Town Hall, but air conditioning systems that use river water can't be endlessly extended, says Morgane Colombert, a French expert on urban climate adaptation.
Systems like the Fraîcheur de Paris warm up the river water, and that's only safe up to a certain threshold to protect local biodiversity. So these systems can't cool down an entire city. We have to choose the buildings we'll cool with them.
In the future, Fraîcheur de Paris will also be linked to schools. Some of them are already enjoying the benefits of greener streets and pedestrian zones. And across the city, cars are increasingly sharing the streets with bicycles.
You can already cycle almost all over Paris on large bike highways like this one. And the city will add another 55 kilometers of bike boulevards over the next 3 years.
But not everybody is happy with the bicycle boom, which is leading to more traffic jams in busy areas. That's why planners need to take the needs of critics and local communities seriously.
We need to make sure our plans are accepted, involve local people and explain the initiatives. Planners often focus on the technological side of climate adaptation, but the human factor is also important.
Other plans are less controversial, like this new installation that provides shade when the sun is high to people in a lower income neighborhood in the north of Paris.
It can be up to 10 degrees cooler under the roof, and we've installed a new spray fountain over there. You just need to push this button and it sprays water for about 20 seconds. You feel the water, right? We're installing 24 roofs like this and 73 spray fountains across Paris. They'll help us get through the summer, on top of our existing heat measures. Our heat plan includes regular checking in on vulnerable people and offering spaces, such as in town halls, where they can cool off.
Measures like these will become even more important in the future if summers in Paris continue to heat up.
I must say, I quite like the idea of Paris cooling down even further with more shade, more spray fountains and more bike lanes. That way, the city will certainly stay enjoyable, even with temperatures continuing to go up.
From the heated up city of Paris, we're back to my heated up city of Delhi with its traffic and its pollution. Did you know that a fifth of the total carbon emissions across the globe come from transport? And as the world is trying to decarbonize, India too is trying to expand its electric mobility. But this too is not devoid of its challenges. Let's head to the southern city of Bengaluru because their experiences with electric transport might have some lessons for us.
Varsha Rajiv owns an electric motorbike, making her one of a small group of pioneers in the Indian city of Bengaluru. Only about 15,000 of the city's 12 million inhabitants use e-scooters like Varsha's. She travels 30 kilometers to work with it every day. Bengaluru, formerly known as Bangalore, is congested and full of smog. Varsha Rajiv wants to help cut the harmful air pollution. The 26-year-old also preferred a cheaper and climate-friendlier way of getting around.
I was looking to buy a new two-wheeler. The reason why I switched for electric vehicle was, one was the hiked fuel charges, and one more thing is the environmental issue also. It has zero emissions, no pollution. So to contribute towards that, I opted for electric vehicle.
The Indian state of Karnataka aims to turn transport from grey to green by 2030 at the latest. The state capital, Bengaluru, is expected to lead the way. But only 5,000 electric cars are on the roads here right now. Price is a major obstacle. E-cars cost 2 to 3 times as much as their gasoline-powered counterparts. Varsha Rajiv works as a lawyer in a legal firm and can afford to buy this model made by a local manufacturer. But most of the city's inhabitants simply can't afford an e-scooter like hers. Yet, the need for them is huge. 70% of all vehicles in the city are motorbikes and motor scooters. In this unremarkable workshop in the southeast of Bangalore, businessman Rakesh MK is working on a pragmatic and affordable solution. His Maladat company converts conventional motorbikes into hybrid ones. They can then run on battery or gasoline as needed. The conversion costs 40,000 rupees or 470 euros.
Retrofitting is a common man's solution. So wherein he has his existing asset and he wants to convert it to an EV. We have a motor which gets fitted onto the existing rear wheel of a scooter, and the controllers will fit into a body of the panel, and a throttle which is unique in our solution, where you have both electric throttle and the IC engine throttle integrated along with the display kit.
Battery range is about 40 kilometers. However, when the gasoline motor is running, it also recharges the battery. Hybrid motorbikes could be an important milestone on the road to green mobility. But that promising future will remain out of reach unless more vehicles go completely electric. But while legislation has supported the production of electric vehicles, the city is still in dire need of an extensive charging grid, the lack of which is a major source of anxiety for most. Small neighborhood shops, known as Kirana stores, could be the answer. With some 12 million of them in India, they could drive the shift to electric motorbikes. This small charging unit was manufactured in Bangalore by the Charger company. It's easily and quickly installed and costs around 3,000 rupees, some 35 euros. But it is likely to generate twice that in revenue every month. Only 300 of them are in place in Bangalore and a few other cities right now. There are plans, though, to roll out 100,000 of them to kickstart the green transport revolution and send a signal to policymakers.
Electric vehicles are just the front end. They are already compatible with renewable energy. So even if, let's say, today it's just 50% coming from renewable energy, that's just the first step. As and when government takes up the steps of moving to 100% renewable energy, electric vehicles are already compatible. So let's take the first step from our side and start using electric vehicles, and government is obviously doing its part.
Politicians need to provide the framework necessary to make green travel a reality, but it also needs innovative companies like Maladat and Charger to make it easier for Bangaluru's citizens to make the switch, because ultimately, as end users, it's down to them. By opting for an electric motorbike, Varsha Rajiv has already taken that step. Bangaluru's other motorbike riders now just have to follow her example. All 5 million of them.
Do I feel a wind of change blowing through the energy sector? Wind power and wind turbines have the potential to transform the energy sector. But did you know that a small wind turbine could be used as your own private electricity generator?
What's this, or this? They are all wind turbines, from this tulip-like one to wind vibrators, and portable micro-turbines for your next camping trip. We're all used to these huge wind turbines that look the same everywhere, but there is no shortage of ideas how else they could look. So why haven't we seen any of these around yet? And do they have a chance? Overall, things are looking pretty good for wind power. While older models were about 30 meters tall, modern versions started at about 50 meters. Nowadays, 250 plus meter turbines are becoming standard, powering tens of thousands of homes. In this game, bigger is definitely better. So why bother with the small ones at all? Patrick Juttermann advises businesses and private households on the pros and cons of small wind turbines.
The small wind turbine is for yourself. If you have a windy location, you can produce power for yourself, electricity for yourself. This might be an enterprise, it might be a farmer, this might be also private home.
A small wind turbine has a rotor sweep of an area less than 200 square meters. Beyond that, they can be almost anything. But generally, there are two groups, horizontal and vertical. In the first case, the rotor shaft is horizontal and parallel with the direction of the wind. Horizontal wind turbines need to be actively oriented toward the wind, which requires a significant effort. Vertical axis wind turbines flip that, with the rotating shaft perpendicular to the wind. They can capture wind from all directions of the compass at all times. Horizontal turbines are generally more efficient than vertical ones of the same size, because horizontal turbines have been aerodynamically optimized to the max through decades of research and can start generating energy at lower wind speeds. So horizontal turbines have won the sprint to build large-scale wind parks by being more efficient and offering a better return on investment. That's why they're also the main players in the small wind turbine business. But vertical turbines might be about to have their own moment in the sun. I mean, wind. They have some real advantages.
Mostly vertical turbines are available in such a small scale, and also they are not as noisy.
And they need far less space. That makes them perfect for use in cities where the buildings, such as here at the United Nations in Vienna, block wind and send it in different directions, making for turbulent conditions. Vertical wind turbines are also easier to maintain, with key components like the generator at ground level and not at the top of a very, very tall tower. And while it's still not clear which style is the most efficient, we do know one thing. Unlike their standoffish horizontal cousins, vertical turbines love to huddle together and interact. When wind hits the vertical turbines, it swirls around the structures and speeds up. This makes the turbines close by turn faster, generating more energy, and can make a wind farm 60% more efficient compared to regular arrays. Still, any alternative to big horizontal turbines will have to compete on cost and efficiency. Smaller projects generally cost more per generated kilowatt than larger ones. The cost and quality of smaller wind turbines varies wildly. But innovation is moving fast. On top of the traditional horizontal and new vertical turbines, a third category of omnidirectional turbines are popping up. That means they are designed to work with wind from all directions, even above and below, while still spinning in one direction. Right now, small-scale wind power is still a blip on the global scale. In 2020, it accounted for just 1.8 gigawatts, or 0.2% of installed wind capacity worldwide. Some analysts have projected the sector to grow at some 9% a year to reach a value of $2.54 billion by 2030. With renewable energy a key tool in cutting CO2 emissions, small-scale wind power might get a foothold in many niche areas, such as remote low-infrastructure regions where there is no public power grid, like here at the Princess Elizabeth Research Station in Antarctica. In both remote and more populated areas, small wind power is particularly good when combined with solar.
In Europe, you have the dark winter, and during the dark winter, low solar radiation, but we have lots of wind. Or this might be also be a rainy season, monsoon season, with lots of clouds. Not that much solar radiation, but you have wind. And I think this is really the future of the small wind turbines.
Then there are all the places that don't have enough space for big turbines, such as in cities, on roofs, on balconies, or on urban infrastructure like transmission masts or streetlights, to complement the larger ones.
So besides having a lot of large turbines, wind turbines and solar panels and water turbines and so on, we will probably need, in the future, we will probably need to have everything we can get. And this is very interesting in this field.
In the city and in rural areas. Of course, adding more wind power means we also need to strengthen the grid. Small-scale wind power, like all emerging renewable technologies, needs to drive its costs down. Mass production could be fueled by government incentive programs to make them available for more people. We'll see whether it will be vertical, horizontal, or something completely new.
Cities are heating up, glaciers are melting, sea levels are rising, and the globe is warming. But as we discovered today, there are ways that help us adapt to this new reality and solutions that can help control this situation. We will keep bringing more such stories to you, but you let me know what would you like to see more of. You can email us or reach out to me directly on my social media handles. I will see you next week. Until then, take care. Goodbye. Namaskar.